Hi, stars. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about combining like terms so that we can simplify expressions. It's a big part of your algebraic thinking, so we want to dive into that. But before we do, I want you to really think about why cows so badly want to become astronauts. So they can go to the moon. Like I said, today we're going to simplify expressions that have one variable by combining like terms to simplify. Now, the examples I'm going to show you today are going to be quite a bit harder than one variable. So to do one variable is going to be real simple. So let's do a little vocabulary. What does simplify mean? Well, it just means to remove brackets or unnecessary terms and numbers to get an expression in simplest terms. So if you look at this example, we started with 4x plus 2x plus 1. Well, we have two terms that are the same. We have 4x and we have 2x. And so what that means is that's just making things complicated. All right, so let's just go ahead and combine those. Let's take the 4x's and we also have 2x's and let's make it 6x. So that's what combining a term means, okay? Like terms. So you're gonna hear me say this word a lot. Like terms are things that have the same, they're exactly the same except for their coefficients. This is, what we have here is we have a collection of x's. So this is a term that has an x involved, but it's 3 of them. This one has a term involved that has an x, but there's a 5 involved with it. So it has the same thing. Those are just a collection of x's, so we're going to combine those. Okay? And then the other one is we have 9 and we have 2. 9 and negative 2. Well, they're the same, right? They don't have any terms involved. They don't have any variables connected to them, so they're the same. So we would just go ahead and combine those. That's what like terms means. Okay, another way to think about like terms is to think about them as teams. Look at this picture. We got two girls basketball teams. One girl starting to shoot a foul shot. And what we want to do is identify the terms. I mean teams. Well, all of these are wearing blue uniforms. So they are all alike. They are on the same team, or they're the same terms. And all of these characters right here are wearing white jerseys. And so they are on the other team. So they are all alike. They are like members of a team. So they have like terms. So what does it mean? Why do we want to combine them? Well, sometimes you'll get problems that look like this, and that's a bit overwhelming. All right, there's a lot going on there. And what we want to do is combine them down to the most simplest form so that it's easier to solve. Now we're not gonna try that one yet. That's the last one we're gonna do, but we're gonna start a little simpler. So how do we do it? Well, the first thing we do is when we see an expression with a bunch of terms involved, we look for ones that are the same. Okay, like terms are exactly the same except for their coefficients. So if we look for terms with a t, it looks like we have some t's up there. Do you see that? Well, they're on the same team. All right, we have a positive 4t and we have a positive 5t. It also looks like we have some terms with no variables attached to them. So they're on the same team. See what we're doing here? And then the next thing we do is we combine teams or combine members of our teams. So we take our 9 and negative 3 and we just combine them. If I have 9 and I also have a minus 3, what does that equal? It equals 6. And then we go to the other terms or team and we say if I have 4t and a 5t, then I will combine them. 4t plus 5t is equal to 9t. Okay? There we go. That's all you'd have to do. 9 minus 3 is 6, and 4t plus 5t is 9t. The answer is 6 plus 9t, all right, because I have a positive 6 and I have a 9t, so keep them all positive. Or you can write in the other order, 9t plus 6. Same thing. All right, let's try another one. So I have negative 9 minus 4t minus 3 plus 5t. Okay, so look at our terms. I have a negative 4t and I have a 5t. So I saw some t's up there, the variables. And my examples all have t's because I think we're talking about terms and teams, but it could be any letters. As long as the letters are the same and there's no exponent attached to it or anything like that, as long as they're the same, you can combine them. And then we also have that don't have variables. So we have a negative 9 and a negative 3. Let's combine them. If I have negative 9 minus 3, what does that equal? Well, if I had already lost $9 and then I lose $3 more, well, now I've lost $12. And then if I have negative 4t plus 5t, I combine them. and that equals 1t. So if I have negative 4t's and I gain 5t's, now I have 1t. Do we ever need to write 1t? No, all we write is t. 1t is the same thing as just t. So the answer is negative 12 and a positive t, or negative 12 plus t. Or you can put it in the other order, t, because it was positive, minus 12. Pretty simple, huh? Well, let's do that tricky one. Good monody badody. Well, let's look for terms that are the same. Well, let's see what we find first. These terms have x to the second power. They both have the same thing. Their coefficients are just different. So those are terms that are alike. And then we have this guy. These are the ones that have a y as a variable. All right, so we can combine those. And then look over here. We have terms that just have x. Those are different than x squared, so they can't be on the same team. So it just has x. And then finally, we have this lonely guy over here that has no variable attached to him. So we go through and we attach them. If I have 7 of these x squareds and I lose 3 of those x squareds, I have 4x squareds. And if I have if I've already lost 4 y's and I lose 5 more of those y's, I now have minus 9 y's, or I've lost 9 y's. And if I have a positive 3x and I lose 3x, well, that's 0. And finally, if I have 8, I have 8, right? So now we just need to write this over, right? We've simplified all of them as far as we can go. And so we have 4x squared, bring it down, minus 9y, bring it down. We don't need to bring the 0 down because it won't change the value of anything, because if I add 0 or subtract 0, it's still the same. So we can leave it alone. And we have 8. So we bring that down. That's it. So let's fill in the blanks. So when we're combining like terms, we can think of it as identifying all members of a team. Very good. Once we find all members of the same team or find like terms, we combine them. Write that down. And finally, to combine terms, we just pay attention to the what. We pay attention to the operator. So once we've already identified the terms by underlining them, circling, doing whatever it is, putting them in squares, putting them in different shapes, then we just pay attention to the operators that are with them, like addition, subtraction, and then we go ahead and solve them like we did with all the other ones. Okay, that's it. That's how you simplify terms. Speaking of cows, do you know what cows like to eat? Smoothies.